Hello and welcome to Two Wheels Extra. The 70s, it seems, are alive and well. We can see their influence in bikes designed only recently and in current day motorcycle clothing. But it seems the actual bikes from the 70s are alive and well too, and that's the theme for this week's show. I'm going to be looking at real 70s bikes, including these two beauties. Fran will check out scoots that'll have mods green with envy. I meet a guy for whom bikes from the 70s are the only bikes to have and to ride. And we'll have a guide to buying your own 70s bike and then owning and using it. So Ben, if we rummage around in your toy box here, why does it contain primarily 70s bikes? What is it about bikes from the 70s?
It's just the attraction of a great era of hand-built motorcycles. And also some of the men that rode them in those days, though, to my mind, they were heroes because they rode what essentially were on very dangerous tracks, old machines. You only have to look at the tyres on these, look at the brakes. And this is a production bike. It was pretty crude in those days. You can't compare men from different eras.
It was heroic, wasn't it? Your bikes, I mean, these are pretty special. Talk us through this one first of all.
It's an MV Agusta 750S. The engine basically came out of the MV racing shop. Road going bike, announced in 1969, just under 750 cc's. Straight 4 engine. They didn't build very many. It was quite advanced in certain respects. It had a shaft drive system down there.
I can't believe the size of the final drive at the end of this shaft on the end of the wheel. The unsprung weight there must be just massive.
Trademark, of course, was the classic MV megaphone exhaust on both sides. Even today on the new MV, they've still got the 4 pipes coming out.
What I love about it is, one, the sort of race crudeness of all the fixtures and fittings on here. You can see where they've been hand milled and constructed. And just the engine, it looks like a race engine. It is not designed to look pretty, is it?
It's not, and it's got one sort of very obvious feature. The starter motor it is attached literally at the back of it and drives through rubber belts. It was never designed to have a starter motor. No. So with a typical Italian ingenuity, they just bolted it on the back.
Now you don't go romping around on this in the rain, do you?
No, not unless I can't avoid it.
No, can you imagine? Obviously, rather primitive drum brakes up front as well. It was then updated or replaced by this.
This was the replacement. Basically, they announced the 750S America, and the America quite simply came because MV had been pushed by one of their American importers, a company who already dealt with the helicopter operations, to produce an updated motorbike for the customers. And in response to that, they produced essentially this bike. This is a slight little hybrid. It's got a slightly larger engine. They then went on to produce the 850 Arturo Magni developed engines. Very, very special bike, very rare.
Now, what do you say to those who look at this and think, it's an old tractor, isn't it? I don't like it. I'd rather have an R6. Well, there's actually something about it that stirs your soul.
Absolutely. I mean, not the least, just being the noise. They are a legendary sound, and I don't think anybody could dispute that. To my mind, modern bikes are just so quick, so fast. They're not the fastest things, but they're great fun to ride.
Well, they're stunning things, and thank you for letting us have a look at them. Do you actually have a modern bike at all?
I have an Aprilia Moto, which is a sort of 70s-looking modern motor.
So you are a completely 70s man out there on your bike. You're not going to convert.
Very, very sad man, but I enjoy it.
Cheers, Ben.
Come on, Richard, it's authentic.
No, it's embarrassing.
If you're going to ride a 70s bike, you've got to look the part.
I look a part. I don't know about the part.
Some of those flies are over 25 years old.
Well, look, I'll wear the kit, but I'm not wearing this. You might as well stick a waste paper basket on your head. I'm going to get my proper lid. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. Both bikes are slightly different. The older 750S, of course, makes things even more difficult by having the brake on the left-hand side and the gear lever on the right, and it's also reversed, so it's up, then down. This bike is conventional brake on the right, gear stick on the left. In terms of riding experience, the first thing you'll notice is the steering is slightly heavier. The geometry was not as sophisticated in those days. And the next thing you notice immediately is the brakes are just nothing like modern brakes. You feel like you've got to have a spare anchor on the back of the bike to slow you down for the corner. But once you get used to them, you really feel quite comfortable. It's just on a modern bike where you see everybody talks about it's doing stoppies and the ability to flick the rear end up. You don't do that on these bikes. You can't do it. I love the noise more than anything else. The handling, as I explained, is nothing special. You're not going to go around the outside of an R6, but you just enjoy the ride. You think about what perhaps your race riders, the Agustinis, the Reeds, were thinking about when they were racing the actual Works 500s. It gives you an insight into what kind of men they were.
Just the fact that the bike was so precious, only 50 of these were made in the first place, made it quite an honour to have a ride of the thing. And the reality didn't disappoint either. It felt fantastic. For a start, the bike felt so tight it could have come straight out of the crate. This has not been restored. It still has that genuine patina of age, and you can see it around the slightly faded paint here and there and bits of wear and tear. The bike may look pretty radical by today's standards, certainly for the riding position, but actually it isn't. It's surprisingly comfortable. Once you've got over the rather disconcerting sensation of changing gear with your right foot and going down rather than up, it's a doddle. The engine's overriding characteristic, apart from the torque, which is great, is the sound, which is wonderful.